All Is Bright was released in 2013, and this is an independent dark comedy drama starring Paul Rudd and Paul Giamatti. I'm not sure exactly how big of a distribution this film got, but I know that it's not talked about that much, and I don't ever recall seeing a review on it at all, really. But it's although it's quite dark and bleak with subject matter, and it's not the most joyful film in the world, even though the main theme is Joy by Tracy Thorn, which is, I'm surprised, is a song that's talked about even less, but once you hear it, it's definitely got that Christmas cheer and Christmas joy in it. But the film itself, yeah, not so much. It's very independent too. I like how indie this feels, and I love independent cinema, and this is a staple. So I'm definitely going to be just going through the basic premise because I don't want to start with spoilers just in case anybody hasn't seen this film. Go find it somewhere, go pick it up, or go find it streaming because it's definitely worth a watch. It's mostly drama. It's got some comedy in it, but like I said, the comedy is very dark, very black comedy. But the basic premise is you have Paul Rudd and Paul Giamatti. They're Quebecois, so they're living in Canada. From what I looked up, most of this film, if not all of this film, is filmed in New York. But there is one scene in particular where they're on Highway 401 and you see the Kingston sign, sorry, of Kingston, Ontario. So that must have been filmed there. But other than that, all I saw was this film being filmed in New York. However, they live in Quebec, and Paul Giamatti just came out of jail for 4 years. And Paul Rudd has this tree selling business, which every year, every Christmas, he goes to New York to sell trees. So Paul Giamatti being broke and basically, stranded, essentially, joins Paul Rudd in his trip to New York to sell trees. Now, the thing is, Paul Giamatti's wife has left him since he went to jail, and when he leaves jail, she's basically, has left him kind of thing, and now she's with Paul Rudd. So that causes a lot of friction and issues with them going to New York and selling trees, and that's the basic premise of the film kind of thing. So that's the spoiler-free review of this, but I'm obviously going to go through this film and talk about it a little bit more in depth for those who have seen it. A part of me is very lukewarm on this film, just because it's, like I said, it's so bleak and it's so dark in theme, and there's not, like, it's very depressing. Like, not a whole lot of happy stuff happens in this film, but their chemistry and their semi humor together is just so well done, and they both have like these quirks to them that are so humane but so intriguing to watch. Like, you don't ever not want to see these guys, at least have some kind of good happen to them in their lives, even though not a lot does. These guys aren't the most likable, but I don't know. There's just something about their charm. There's something about their chemistry, especially. And you would think going in that these guys are gonna, just want to kill each other every chance they get, but they do sometimes. But it's not really that kind of story. Paul Giamatti at the beginning of the film, he's just walking down the road, and there's this cop that pulls by him, and the cop knows that he just came out of jail, but he has nowhere to go, and he makes his first stop at his wife's house where he used to live, I assume. They have a daughter named Mishi, and when he gets to the house, it's nighttime now, and he goes to the window, and his wife sees him. He's like, "Get out of here," kind of thing. Apparently, the wife told the daughter that Paul Giamatti's character, whose name is Dennis, has passed away from cancer. So she's looking at him at the window. She's writing notes to him, and one of the notes says, "I told her you were dead," and he just looks. He's just like out loud. He's like, "Why?" And she's like, "Shut up," because the girl's sleeping, and she tells him to wait till the daughter's asleep, and then they have a conversation. He sees the picture of his wife and Renee, played by Paul Rudd, on the fridge, and freaks out about that. Next day, he basically goes to the local bar that they all hung out at and visits Paul Rudd, and Paul Rudd claims that he bought a truck and he's going straight and he's turning his life around, and he tells Paul Giamatti's character, Dennis, that he goes to New York every year to sell trees, and he's like, "Take me with you," because I'm stranded. I'll do anything. I heard you're with my wife, but I'm in desperate times, calling for desperate measures kind of thing, which is a really hard situation. I've never understood when it came to like your buddy stealing your girlfriend or whatever, like some relationship not working out, and then your ex, whoever, going for somebody that you knew or somebody that was your friend or something like that. How they can like still manage to have a business relationship or any kind of relationship, but I guess Dennis is like really really screwed with everything. Like he's essentially homeless. Like he has no other options. So he basically begs to go on board to New York, and Renee agrees, and he even has to like fire his regular guy to bring Paul Rudd along. So I guess Renee, played by Paul Rudd, sorry, to bring Renee is played by Paul Rudd. Dennis is played by Paul Giamatti. They're both Pauls. Forgive me if I mix them up like that. So the next day is one of the most Canadian scenes ever. Dennis, played by Paul Rudd, is eating poutine at a bar, and then Paul Rudd comes in and he's like, "We're picking trees at 9 and or 9 a.m. the next day or something like that." And then Dennis is like, "Pick me up at the Timmy's on whatever street." So you got poutine and you got Tim Hortons in that like 5 seconds. It's great, and it just feels very Canadian. And that highway scene too, where you see the Kingston sign, definitely very close in my proximity, so I recognize a lot of things like that. So they're heading to New York. Dennis is a convict, so Renee has to sneak him across the border, kind of thing. And I love the border scenes because when Paul Rudd gets to the border, he's talking the border patrol's ears off to while they're searching the vehicle because he wants to keep them as distracted as possible. And Paul Rudd is just going on and on about the most random shit. And I don't know if he improvised the lines or not, but they're kind of hilarious because he literally just rambles. And these people are like, okay, okay, like get back in the cabin because I gotta search everything. And Paul Rudd just keeps talking and talking. And Paul Giamatti is hiding in the mass like pile of trees kind of thing. And they get there. It's this tiny little lot in some New York street, and it looks like shit. Like there's graffiti all over the walls. Like it looks like I don't know if they hit the ghetto or something like that, but they're not in like the best looking area of town. But apparently they are at the same time because once they start selling trees. Apparently, a lot of New Yorkers have a ton of money because they just start selling trees galore. It takes a while, but they definitely do a good enough job for the area that the area that they're in, the way it looks like visually, kind of thing. At one point, there's these other tree sellers that call themselves Vermont Trees or something like that, and they post right across the street from the two guys. And these guys they obviously have a much better lot, way more trees, and they kind of build like signs and they play music from an iPod, like Christmas music and stuff like that. So they're much more atmospheric and they draw a lot more attention. And at one point, Paul Giamatti, his character, is basically a person who doesn't give a fuck. And he goes up to the guy and he basically like threatens him. He puts like an axe, like a saw, sorry, to his neck, and he's like, "You're gonna move, or my buddy over there, we're just gonna saw your head when you least expect it. You're not even gonna notice what's happening." So Paul Giamatti's character ends up meeting this woman, this Russian woman. She comes over to buy a tree, and this Russian woman takes a liking to Paul Giamatti's character Dennis. Her name is Olga, and it's one of those things that like there's some kind of chemistry that you can't really know what it is and know why she's drawing an interest, but she comes to buy a tree and she's willing to pay kind of whatever. And he even, at one point, he doesn't know what to charge her for the tree, and he's like, "I don't know, I'll sell the tree for you $20. And she's like, $20? She just laughs. And he's like, "Oh, sorry, 15." And she's like, $15, this is $200 tree, kind of thing. And he sells it like he has no idea that they're worth $200, but he starts selling to her for $200, and then everybody else who comes along, he starts selling for like 200, 250, and some people, find that way overpriced, but he set it at 200, so people are willing to buy 200, and Like I said, they draw in a ton of people, and everybody has just cash to blow kind of thing when it comes to these Christmas trees. And as for Paul Rudd's character, he is currently married to another woman named Marie, and he's basically waiting on a divorce. And he loves this woman, Therese is her name, the French Canadian woman that was married to Dennis, and he's basically just waiting on his current wife Marie to allow him, like, grant him a divorce essentially, so he can ask Therese to marry him. But all the while, when they're in New York, he's basically just carefree, and he finds this woman and he's staring at her through binoculars. It's very, very strange. This like middle-aged woman, basically she hangs out, she hangs around her window naked often, and he starts to like realize when she's off work, realize when she's like at the window, what times during the night she's usually walking around her apartment naked, and he just keeps staring, and he starts to like kind of schedule her times when she's most likely to be there, and he keeps staring. It's really, really friggin' weird. Just his obsession with this random naked woman at the window on her apartment. And then there's this other woman that he met the year before, and he wants to go have drinks with, and he's getting drunk with her, and he's partying with some other people. So it doesn't seem like the most stable person, and doesn't seem like the most loving person when it came to Therese, where Paul Giamatti's character Dennis is just, you know, his heart is given to Therese kind of thing, and he'll do anything for her, including going straight himself, which he doesn't. He goes straight enough, but this guy like has thief inbred in him. It's like he doesn't know any other way to live. Like every chance he gets, he's stealing shit. He's pickpocketing shit. He pickpockets the guy who was searching the trees with the flashlight when they were crossing the border, steals his wallet. He goes into this washroom, and I forgot to mention this washroom restaurant scene. Paul Rudd basically says to Dennis, like, hey, if you need to use the washroom, just go into that restaurant over there. They have no problem letting you. So Dennis does, Paul Giamatti's character, and he goes to the bathroom, and then the owners of the place just burst in. He's like, you a customer? And they drag him right out, like typical New Yorker fashion. And they're like, fuck you, get out of here. We want money, or you're not using our bathroom kind of thing. But he, like, as he's being dragged out, he's just like grabbing sweets off the off the shelves and everything, and the counter, and just like no fucks given with this guy. But the restaurant scene is funny because these guys are so fucking rude in front of customers and everything, and just dragging some guy out for using the bathroom. And then at one point, Paul Giamatti goes back again and actually puts a wad of cash on the counter. I don't know why, but he puts the wad of cash on the counter, and then he just goes to use the bathroom, and the owner of the store, the employee, whoever works there, he's like, fuck you very much. And there's customers everywhere. It's just like, how do you stay in business? Like, how do these people stay in business? It's so ridiculous. Maybe it's a New Yorker thing or something. But yeah, he befriends this Russian woman, and this Russian woman is taking care of this really, really high-end apartment. I mean, like, high-end. They have a grand piano in there and everything. And she's house-sitting, essentially, and I assume she's getting paid for it. But she works for these dentists, and as she starts to describe these dentists, apparently they're very cheap and they're not very respectful, and they don't take this woman seriously, and she's basically scrapping for cash herself. So she invites Paul Giamatti in every once in a while, and they hang out. I'm not exactly sure. It's not implied whether they like sleep together or not, but she definitely has this very strong bond of friendship and loyalty and love for Dennis. And it's really sweet with their interactions because they're very different people, but they kind of, I don't know, they come in the same place. And as I was saying, they have this weird chemistry that's not in your face. It's not obvious. It's just something that connects them to, kind of thing, and they can relate to each other somehow. Even though he pickpockets her too. Well, not necessarily her because it's the dentist's home, but he's taking chocolates. He's just taking whatever the hell he wants. And at the end of the film, kind of when it hits the climax, kind of thing, she decides to leave the back window open because she knows he's a thief kind of thing. And he decides to go into the apartment, but not to steal what you think he's going to steal, like money or riches or something like that. He goes to steal the grand piano because he knows that his daughter is very musical and music savvy, and she's a little girl, but she loves playing piano and she loves music. And he steals the piano for her, and he even like threatens Paul Rudd to help him with it, kind of thing. And it's just so ridiculous that he wants the piano and nothing else, and it's a grand piano, so they use like ropes and pulleys, and like they stack books on top of each other to rest the top of the piano on top while they take the legs. And it's just this ridiculously massive project to steal a friggin' piano. I'm sure it's worth a lot, but he's just essentially giving it at the end of the film to his daughter. And the ending, again, it's so bleak in a strange way because nothing good happens to Dennis. Renee, played by Paul Rudd, ends up with Therese, and they're like one big happy family at the end of the movie. And the daughter gets the piano, and the piano's on the front lawn, and she runs to it and starts playing with it, while Dennis is hiding out, just observing his daughter, and her Christmas joy kind of thing, but at the same time watching Paul Rudd with his ex-wife. And according to the daughter, he's supposed to be dead of cancer. So he's like, his daughter doesn't even know that he's alive anymore, and he's just sitting there watching this happy family and his own daughter play this piano and be happy for Christmas kind of thing. But then he just walks off, and it's like, I don't know. It just seems like incomplete almost, and so unsatisfactory to the vast majority of it, that I feel like the ending doesn't really have a theme kind of thing. But unless it's a really dark theme, like the whole purpose of Dennis was to make his daughter happy no matter what, and I think it's more of like acceptance is the main like takeaway from the film. And life gives you lemons, make lemonade as best you can kind of thing. And maybe he just played the cards that he was dealt. But I don't know, like it's certainly not like a joyful Christmas film or anything like that. But for a character study on two characters, Dennis and Renee, it's well done. Like it's worth seeing, and you care about these guys. You want to see these guys succeed even though they don't. And Paul Rudd is pretty hilarious. Throughout the film, he's really good at making like a Canadian accent, like stereotypical Canadian accent, but it's not goofy, and it's not like forced, and it's not over the top. Like he's pretty good at doing a casual Canadian accent. However, there's points in the film where he purposely does different accents, especially like hardcore French accents and really Canadian, like a boot e kind of thing, because he's in New York and he wants to like sell his Canadianness to sell more trees, and he's hilarious when he does those accents too. And he plays a really funny character, and he wears like a Montreal Canadiens hockey team like toque, and he's really like pushing the, when he's selling to customers, he's really pushing the Canadianness, but when he's casually talking, he still has that like Canadian accent that he does well. And I like Paul Giamatti's character too. He's good at playing these like miserable guys, and he does it in this film too. Like I said, this film has a theme song. Throughout, there's this like jazzy version of "Angels We Have Heard on High" that is, it fits the theme of the film. I like that jazzy Christmas music kind of thing going on, and the score is pretty good in the film too. But this film has a theme song by Tracy Thorn, which I already mentioned, called "Joy," and it's one of the best Christmas songs ever that's never talked about. I'd never heard of it until I watched this film for the first time, and it's a sweet song, and it's a really great theme song for the film. So go look that up if anything. But I do recommend this film if you haven't seen it. I hope you've seen it if you've been watching up to now. But hey, it's still really good, even though if you don't care about spoilers, still go check it out. It's a good, well acted, thoroughly fresh dark comedy, as it says back here. Pretty true, because it is fresh, and it is unique, and not a lot of people talk about it. It's very, very indie, and if you like independent cinema, this is like an indie hidden gem kind of thing. with really dark themes. So know that. And it's just too bad. Like even with Olga, the Russian woman, like not she doesn't have a nothing climactic happens to her either. She kind of just like it ends very very bleak, you could say. And I would have liked this film if it had a better climax, to be honest. But it's for the characters it's good and it's well done and it's very it's low budget independent cinema done right. So it'd be good at like some kind of film festival or something like that. But I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. If not, just go find it because it's a cool Christmas flick and it's it's neat. It's a neat one. So subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you'd like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon, so stay tuned for those. Check out what's on the channel already. Stay tuned for what's coming. Until next review. Have a good one. Take care and cheers.